Do you guys like Star Wars?
I loved Rogue One.
Yes, and
I loved it.
that was directed and written by Tony Gilroy, who, you know, that was his first foray into the Star Wars world. You know, he directed a lot, wrote all the Bourne films. You know, the Bourne Supremacy and all those things. He did a Stephen King movie way back called Dolores Claiborne, and a bunch of other sort of drama. So he kind of comes from a different world, like more drama.
Yeah.
And so his series, which is Andor, is much more of a kind of a grounded, you know, more adult version of the Star Wars world. And his film Rogue One was very much that.
I love Rogue One, gritty and like ground, like we're talking a little grittier and ground level. Like it didn't have as much fantasy feeling, and that's what I loved about it.
Right,
really the resistance, and they were small and they were mighty, but they weren't like the big supernatural great heroes. They were really working hard at it, and he's the main actor, so good.
And it was the first, wasn't it? The first movie that was sort of outside. It was a feature film, but it was the first one that was outside of the structured trilogy sets. You know. It didn't start with the, you know, dun, 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 and that angled crawl that goes up. It was called a Star Wars story, I think is the way they defined it, as opposed to a standard part of the.
It wasn't episode 7 or episode 2. That's all backwards and all this kind of stuff. You know, like what? But and it stars Diego Luna, who's great.
Yeah, loved him.
You know, he's wonderful. You talk about just like a real good presence to him. A great cast. Stellan Skarsgård, who's always good.
It spawned so many good actors.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was great in the Dune films.
Yes.
Adria Arjona, it was really good. And Genevieve O'Reilly. So a really good cast. The first season was great. So it was really compelling. You know, there's if you haven't seen it, obviously watch that before you start season 2. You have to, because it's very rich in the characters and the story.
And it's just great storytelling. It's great television. And if you're into Star Wars, it's great Star Wars stuff. It's got all the bits and pieces. It's got this, you know, the Easter eggs that the fans expect, you know, the things that you suddenly realize, oh my God, they're building. I know what they're building, you know. And it's also a prison drama, you know. It's got a few, you know, espionage kind of stuff and things going on under the surface, but it's also a great, you know, there's some good prison dramas like Prison Breaks and things like that. And that the idea of that's, you know, got one of those elements of drama that we all like. That I guess you could call it isolation drama or isolation horror or whatever. When people are in prison, you know. Yeah, the drama goes up to 150. You know?
Yeah, no, that whole scene of him being in it was great, and the prison was cool, and what they were doing was cool. They were building these things. It was just like, the whole thing was a completely different experience. So it's a great series. I expect nothing less from season 2, which is coming April 22nd. So it's you know, a few months away. I think it's April 22nd.
I'm totally looking forward to this.
Me too. Yeah.
So let's take a look at the trailer for season 2 of Andor.
Okay.
What are we gonna see?
Are we ready?
Ready.
Hold the work, everybody. Everybody, quiet. All right. Yeah. I've spent too many years on set. Anyway, quiet.
We're in a war. You want to fight? Or you want to win? Last night I had a dream that the world had turned. All our hopes had come to be. The revolution starts now.
What a swell party this is.
And Anderson too.
Yeah.
Some familiar faces.
Yep. Familiar robots.
Yep.
Remember this moment. You're here. You're right here, and you're ready to fight.
I just seem all slick.
Yeah.
Looks
And
good.
And Forrest Whitaker, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. Always good.
He's good as a. I mean, his character is just a little bit unhinged here, and he's got the kind of wild look to him, you know.
It was really fun. I love how they started with just him from the back walking.
Yeah.
It kind of went into just being just massive clip trailer to show all the best action moments. But I love how they kind of started off with like, you know, you're going in, it's going in, it's going in. You see him, they're teasing him, and then, you know, it went into just like, you know, it was a great start. And we wink.
We love the idea of a revolt against the fascists, right?
Always.
We need to see that. We need that. We need to see that, and we need to feel it. And
we need a reminder what that feels like.
Like
exactly.
Yeah. Remember why we make movies in the first place.
Exactly. And series and everything else.
Yeah.
And also you get to see all the different characters, because I'm watching go, oh, I remember him.
Yeah.
I remember, he was a bad. I remember her.
Yeah.
So you're getting everybody. And so it's just like I said, rich characters are all you kind of remember what they were about. You know, like sometimes you watch a series and you go, what was happening here? You sort of lose.
Who is that?
But I kind of remember this, even though this was 2022, so 3 years ago. I really remember the story still. Was that good. A storytelling job by everybody. So I'm excited for this one.
It kind of makes me sad though, because I know we're gearing into Rogue One now, because you're seeing that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Up. And it's such a sad movie. It's a tragic, horrible ending. I mean, great ending, but you're just like, so just knowing what's coming, it makes me.
And this is the last season of the show. It's only only 2 seasons, so we know where it's going. But that adds a certain kind of I hate to use the word gravitas, but
right,
add something to it. You know,
like a portent. You know, I think that's the word where you know. That's always been my problem with prequels. With the idea of prequels is that you know who lives and you know who dies, and if you're with a group of people and your present day story doesn't include that person, you're thinking, what's going to happen to that person? And if it does include this person, then you're like, okay, they survive. I don't have to worry about them. So that's one of the problems with prequels. But in some ways, if they do it right, if they do the storytelling right, what you're watching is, you know, a sort of a legend, the legend of Andor, you know, like the stories that people tell, you know.
And you get to see how they got there, you know, how it started, how they got there, but it's still sad.
The sacrifices.
I think a prequel series versus a prequel movie is a different thing, because you're getting like 12 hours of show or whatever, however long the episodes are. So you're getting a lot more of the story, and you get the ebbs and flows, whereas just a 2-hour prequel, it's just a different feel. I don't know. I'm not bummed out about it, because I think there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff to see before we get to the. I'll be bummed out at the very end, but we have 12 shows to go through. You know,
that's true. I guess so, but it's still sad. But you're right. I mean,
it's sad because you're watching people that you know are you know, and. But then again, like Mark says, you get all this story. You get a ton of story. You get tons of stories, and each episode, I'm sure, tells a different story. And
should you watch Rogue One before you watch? If you haven't seen Rogue One, or should you put that, table that and watch
after that?
Table it and after, I think, after the series. If you haven't, because if you're watching this, you probably already seen it, and maybe you don't exactly remember. But
how many people have not seen Andor who's watching this?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Or Rogue One.
Do we have a poster for it, Kath? Or
we do have a poster, and also that music was an interesting. It wasn't like orchestral John Williams sounding. It was like that Earl? Who was that? Let's see.
I don't know, but that gives it again the different vibe of the
grittier.
Series.
Yeah,
it just feels different.
This is the poster. They just have it kind of like almost like an old photo that's kind of scratched up.
It's got some digital stuff on top there.
It has like the Death Star texture behind him, I think.
Oh, that's what it is. It looked like text, but I looked closer and you're right. It's like windows.
You can kind of see the edge of the Death Star there at the bottom.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like
there's a weird shadow. Can't quite figure out what the shadow is around him.
To the right of his face.
Yeah. It's kind of Yeah, kind of interesting. I guess it's a pattern of his clothes, but great shot of him. So see how it's all blurry, like it's sort of like it's gonna come into focus.
Right.
Weird. I know, it's kind of cool. But yeah, it looks really good. It's a class act all the way. Not all the Disney stuff is as good as this. And Andor's been really like delivering. So I really like it.
Yeah, I think it's the one I'm looking forward to the most in the Star Wars movie. Because I just feel I like the characters. I like the fact that, there's adult stuff in it, they actually couples sleep together. You never see that in any of the Star Wars films. Just simple things like
That's
that.
Right. There was an indicator of sex at some point.
Yes.
And you know what else that I've always liked about this? And one thing that I had a problem, I remember, the first three movies will always be special to me because I remember I was a kid, I was a youngster when they came out, and it totally blew my little mind and changed the course of my life. I think, the very first Star Wars movie, which I will always call Star Wars.
Not episode 4.
No, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
The second one was Empire Strikes Back, and then the third one was Return of the Jedi. But the first one, Star Wars, I remember that just sort of, I was like, oh my God, this is just so cool. It's like everything you want, everything a young person wants to see. It was a young hero. He was a kid on a farm, and it was a couple of, clanky robots going through the desert getting rusty, and it was a smuggler with his giant furry friend and an old man who lives in it was all these sort of ragtag. It was a classic collection of ragtag people, that just
that you rooted for 100% versus the big, Darth Vader, the ultimate sort of, evil villain, and
But then the
Empire.
the next ones came along. I remember I was, a bit older, and when the new ones after, George Lucas had been through all this stuff, he was now, had an empire, the Empire.
The Empire?
And he was, Emperor Lucas, he owned everything in the world. Right. And so the films, the prequels that came out to me weren't as interesting because it was about these sort of royalty. It was a queen, it was a princess, and it was like the best Jedi, and there was no ragtagness about it. It didn't have that sort of like, should I go or should I stay here on the farm and help Aunt Beru? But it was like, the questions that young people have. It's like, gosh, I'm getting older, I need to think about college. But
exactly.
This Andor, I think the Andor idea goes back to that. The thing I originally loved about Star Wars was that ragtag, people on the street level, not the best, not the richest, not the royalty, not magical, not the greatest magicians. Yeah, he can't go like that and throw somebody across a room or make lightning bolts come out of his fingers. He's a guy, and that's what I like about it.
It's really good. It's excellent.
Can't wait for it. We'll obviously talk about it when it comes out. So that comes out April 22nd, Disney Plus.
All right.
Obviously, I can go on and on about it, but
let us know in the comments your favorite parts of Andor leading up to this. What do you think of this trailer?
And your thoughts on the entire Star Wars universe. I think that's a thing. I think we just got an announcement that there's going to be another official trilogy, another official Star Wars trilogy, and I think it takes place after the original 3 Star Wars films, after Return of the Jedi. I think
it's an all Ewok cast.
Yes.
They want to populate with a bunch of young people instead of all these old classic actors from the original.
But there's talk about, they were saying that, people are happy with the casting of Luke Skywalker. And I'm thinking, okay, so that might be interesting. I mean, if you're going to have a new, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll
yeah.
see. I don't know about that.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.